People inside me are telling me to blow up City Hall, because everyone is rock'em sock'em robots. Those are the lyrics that Jack Black sung on the Tenacious D album track City Hall. Now, of course, no one could actually be a rock'em sock'em robot. They are plastic and they cannot move from the confines of the ring in which they permanently reside, doomed as they are to exchange fisticuffs evermore. Mere toys. However, this game could give you pause for thought. Here they are, out and jumping about, walking upon many different locations, and everyone in this game is also a rock'em sock'em robot, which makes me wonder if Jack Black was actually right. How far are they from our city halls? Are they going to take us over? It's a conspiracy video, this, only it's not at all. It's a review of a game. This game being, of course, on the Gameboy Advance, and I'm talking absolute baloney in order to follow up the Tyson formula of my videos and give you a mildly snarky, silly intro. So from that familiar first part of my usual video formula to the second, where we talk about the product or concept upon which the game was based. And in this case, it is a toy. Fisting robots. Oh, matron! Rock'em sock'em robots have been putting curled hand to chin since 1964, initially thanks to the combined might of the Marx Toy Company and the Marvin Glass and Associates Company. They were inspired by the mechanical boxing machines found in arcades from as far back as the 1940s. Originally, the Rock'em Sock'em robots were designed to look like people, but after a tragic in-ring fatality befell pugilist Davy Moore in 1963, the characters were redesigned to make them look less human, less suffer the eye of bad taste upon them. These robots were fighters from beyond the stars. Red Rocker was from Soltaris 2, whereas the Blue Bomber was a prized fighter from the planet Umgluck. Later on, specifically in the 1970s, the toy was released in the UK under the name Raving Bonkers, which sounds better if you say it in Cockney. Raving Bonkers! With its fighters called Basher Bonker and Biffer Bonker, well, the Americans actually did the naming right this time. Yes, they did. They did it better than us. Our names were silly. Silly, I say. The toy clearly has done pretty well, seeing as you can buy it today, albeit after various additions and redesigns, including at one point a Transformers version with Optimus Prime and Megatron continuing their Aeon Ages war, in this time with a bout of Marquis of Queensberry rules. These days it's owned by Mattel, which has no doubt sustained its appeal, but the core concept has always remained the same. A concept which I actually haven't explained up to this point because I'm bad at this. Plastic robots controlled by two little controller sticks mechanically punch each other until one looks a bit worse for wear. That's the concept. It's definitely a toy that is more regarded in the States rather than the UK. And it's one that gets referenced a fair amount. It's made several appearances in Pixar movies like Toy Story 2 and The Incredibles, and The Simpsons have inevitably given it a nod as well. It has had another console game, which I'm not covering here, which was on the PlayStation 1. It was a fighting game based on the engine of that most famous of cancelled completed games, Thrill Kill. Will I do a follow-up video at some point? Probably not. The game we're covering today came out in 2006 and was published by DSi. Rock'em Sock'em Robots was developed for the Game Boy Advance by Full Fat Studios, a UK Midlands-based programming team who specialised in handheld and mobile phone games. Rock'em Sock'em Robots has you selecting your chosen plastic pugilist that largely looks all the same as all the other ones. They're just in different colours with slightly different heads on the selection screen. You then go through a selection of different hued adversaries, which will unlock further fighters to fight and indeed play as. The fight with the final boss, who is a void-coloured hard man called the Black Bruiser, will only be unlocked once you've played through the game multiple times. Each fight involves two fighters facing off against each other in a variety of locales. All of them, though, have a slightly dangerous element to enhance the drama. The Arctic, that's Chile. Construction site, falling masonry. Nuclear reactor, that's Chernobyl. However, none of these actually play any role in the gameplay at all. They're just backgrounds. The fights themselves are similar in construct to the toy. One button will control your left paw, while the other one will control the right. Holding the button on either fist will see you lay out a power punch, but that, of course, will leave you open to a counter-strike. Holding A and B together once your power bar is charged from laying in successful regular punches will give you a character-specific power move that might involve his fist, but also could involve his head or his legs. Once your opponent's strength has ebbed sufficiently, you can alternate L and R to lay on the knockout blow, which can often separate head from Robo's shoulders. Unlike the toy, they are freed from their bases and can hop around like a freshly laid bunny hopping its way home from a Saturday night of sticky fur debauchery. This at least makes it slightly more advanced than the original toy, but not a lot of else does. Indeed, much like the Rock and Sock'em toy, and it's commendable in a way, it can be beaten in much the same way as its inspiration. You can mash the buttons and win. Any opponent, any difficulty, it's the same thing each fight. And that is quite a big problem. Some of the fights can be over in under half a minute, and the longevity is stretched out by the game demanding that you play through it so many times in order to unlock all the fighters. But I don't know why you'd want to. They are all identical apart from their power move and their different colours. It is a repetitive game to play to the point where a new synonym for repetition could verily be Rock'em Sock'em Robots on the Game Boy Advance. It's a bit of a long word though, isn't it? I'm putting hyphens in there to make it one. Presentation is not holding up the project either. Graphically, it's shonky from its static backdrops to its lurching opponents. The animation is not good. The music is at some points chintzy early aughts menu music, you know the type, and at others dirty heavy metal guitar, which sounds like it's being performed by 14-year-old children warming up who are convinced they're going to be the new Megadeth, and then they split up about a month later. Yeah, so it's not great. An attempt has been made to advance the idea of the original toy, and in the end, it's only about as evolved as the original itself. The toy is probably a lot more fun, actually, and that's a toy from the mid-60s. IGN weren't a fan. It is their lowest rated Game Boy Advance game, and they will tell you as much in their review. This game has no other purpose than to disappoint everyone who buys it, and shame everyone who worked on it. The single worst game on the Game Boy Advance, avoid at all costs. Okay, tell us how you really feel, IGN, eh? It got a pretty shambolic 1.5 from them. Game Zone were a bit more forgiving. They gave it a 5.4 out of 10. And they said you get what you pay for here. It's a bargain price game that has a small tidbit of fun if played in short bursts. Rock'em Sock'em then. It won't rock your socks off. It floats like a winged hippo and hits like a marshmallow. Next up, the Domark developed computer game of Jeffrey Archer's 1976 novel, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less. Yes, that's going to be a niche one, isn't it? Brilliant. Like, subscribe, and okay, thanks, bye.